So, Joe, thank you for joining me on NRL Fans WA. Coming on to talk about the South Perth Junior Rugby League Club, mate. Really appreciate you giving me your time on this long weekend. First of all, mate, I'll just give sort of a rundown of what I do with the social media pages and stuff. I run, it's called NRL Fans WA. What I'm trying to do is promote the game in here in Perth, trying to get more people involved, from juniors to seniors. Trying to show the NRL that we also need the team over here, the 18th team. So just trying to get more interest in the game in Perth. I love the game. I grew up watching it, playing it. So yeah, that's what I try to do.
Fantastic, very much.
No, awesome. So the South Perth Rugby Club, mate, Rugby League Club. How long have they been around,
mate? As far as the senior goes, one of the foundation clubs. My juniors in my time, I believe, have been around, look, at least since the 70s. Mate, my tenure's been fairly short, if you will. I've only been in the role for the last 3 years. But yes, as far as the club as a whole, mate, yeah, foundation club in Perth, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Because you're part of the juniors side of things. You're the co-president, am I correct?
That's correct, mate. Yep.
Yep. What is your season numbers looking for? Like, how healthy is the club looking this year?
Mate, at South, we try and look. We normally operate in the sort of mid to high hundreds. Location wise, where it's a little bit of a sticky one for us, mate, because we're in a sort of a demographic there which is a little bit older.
Yep.
With our surrounding suburbs, so we do rely on our players travelling.
Yep.
So that being said, mate, we've got to be, making sure we're really good at what we do, how we do it, to make sure we're sort of getting that support outside of our catchment, if you will.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Me personally, I'm involved with the Serpentine Club, so yeah, we again getting players to sort of travel and stuff like that. It's a bit hard at the moment, but yeah,
it is, mate.
and we're only third year in. We're struggling for numbers because out in the Byford way, a lot of people didn't even know we have a club. So it's hard to get that out there.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going with coaches and volunteers and stuff like that as well, mate? Like, I know that's a hard thing. I mean, we're finding it hard at the moment to find coaches, volunteers. Being that you guys are a foundation club, is it a bit easier finding those parents to help coach, be the volunteers, the managers, all that sort of stuff?
Mate, in the past, it hasn't been. No, I guess when you say volunteer, like our sports trainers is always a hard one for us. Getting people to give up their time, obviously, one, to give up their time, two, to do the course.
Yeah.
And three, obviously, most of our parents having children involved like to sort of travel, and watch their kids play. It does become a bit hard, mate. Back those sports trainers, coaches in general, mate, we're normally pretty good.
Yeah.
But on a volunteer aspect, mate, yeah, it's been a bit hard. Sports trainers and general volunteers around the club aren't too bad. But as you know, mate, as always, that could be better. We always need more help. So
yeah, definitely. The volunteers, go from the committee, coaches, anyone running the water for the kids, or sports trainers, and even helping in the canteen, all that sort of stuff, and it goes a long way towards the clubs.
Yeah, it does, mate. Now, it's always something that we sort of, we'll sort of tend to harp on about, but we've got to, unfortunately. You sound like a bit of a broken record, mate, but it's same every year. Yeah, we need those volunteers. If we're going to get sides on the park, mate, and be competitive, well, we need people sort of behind the scenes helping out. So that's a bit of a, mate. So it's a bit, how would I put it, mate? It's usually, as you probably know, mate, it's the same faces year in, year out, So attracting those new parents, volunteers, if you will, to sort of help out around the club, it does get hard at times, for sure.
Yeah. How do you just go about getting these volunteers, like the newer parents that do come down? Does the coaches go up and ask them to sort of help out, or does the committee? How do you just go about it?
Mate, we do. Obviously, we're pretty prominent on our social pages over the last 18 months, 2 years. So we do advertise. Obviously, we do encourage our coaches to approach our parents, if you will. I think the downside to that, mate, at this time of year is we're just starting to get kids to training. We're only sort of a couple of weeks out. So really being able to catch up with those parents is sort of something that'll only happen over the next sort of fortnight, if you will. So, mate, look, it normally comes together, but it does make you a little bit antsy, mate, when you sort of get close to kickoff, and you still got those sort of roles to fill. But, more often than not, mate, it does sort of come together with the help of, like I say, the coaches and a good manager, mate, is weight in gold, as you probably know. Like it's one thing to have, a good coach looking after these kids, but someone that can take after the sort of the admin side of that team and court these parents and be in communication with your committee, so on and so forth. They're weight in gold, the managers. So.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely they are, mate. During the year, you more than likely have fundraising, raffles, sausage chisels, all that sort of stuff. What have you got coming up in the next couple of weeks or couple of months?
Mate, we have someone in place for that. One of our committee members. Look, we will this time of the year, mate. We'll toss up a few ideas, start to put the feelers out and get a bit of feedback as to sort of what people want. Where over the last couple of years at South, we have tried to have something for the parents. It's while it's obviously kid and of course family orientated, we do like to sort of reward our parents. What they do throughout the year with getting the kids there. Obviously, a lot of them do volunteer, they coach, etc. So we do always like to have something on for the parents, whether it be an 80s disco, mate, or a bingo night or something like that. We'll double as a fundraiser, but like you say, your sausage sizzle, mate, our canteens, big one for us as it is for everybody. Mate, but we'll have a disco for the kids, things like that. There is a sportsman's lunch in the pipeline as we speak. Would like to try and capitalise on Origin being here. So there is, we're sort of doing our due diligence there, if you will, with regard to putting a Origin sportsman's lunch on at the club, which will act as obviously a sportsman's lunch / junior fundraiser. So there are a couple of things we're looking at the moment.
So is that getting a couple of players from either Queensland, New South Wales to sort of come out and have a chat to the kids and do a bit of a training session with them?
Look, hopefully. The problem we're sort of seeing at the moment with that is that it's, both camps, it's too early. They haven't even got their run sheets together for the week or the weekend, if you will. So we're really sort of, I wouldn't say hamstrung, mate, but we can't really lock anything away until, it gets closer to that date and both states know what they're doing, what their commitments are. A bit of a tricky one, mate, but we're pretty much just, it's got to sort of sit in there waiting to sort of see what happens with these two teams, and getting that info off them, mate, as to whether or not they can release a couple of players or staff. As I say, depends on what they've got on with their commitments. So we'll know more in the next, I'd like to think in the next sort of 2 weeks, mate, we'll know more there. Yeah,
that's cool. Do you, does South Perth have a connection with any of the NRL clubs, for I know we used to have teams come over and play over here. Do you have a connection with any club or any clubs, so when they do come over, they come down to training or train at your grounds or whatever?
Mate, we do as of this year. I don't know whether you would have seen it on our socials, but we've partnered up with the Canberra Raiders.
Okay.
What that will entail, mate, obviously with the demise of the juniorette program, obviously due to the COVID, so on and so forth. We really need something for these boys to aspire to, At the moment, I'd be a pretty poor salesman because I've got nothing for them to go on with. Man says, "Oh, why play rugby league in Perth?" For fitness and for fun, obviously, but for those aspiring, I've got really nothing to offer you at the moment. So that was pretty important, mate. We put that in place with the Raiders.
Yep.
That'll entail, mate, myself and a couple other people at the club will sort of monitor our juniors over the course of 2022.
Yep.
And those who sort of we see fit as, as doing the right things both on and off field and are showing, that ability and or desire to sort of take their game to a new level, mate, we'll identify a couple of our players and send them over to the Raiders for their Harold Matthews pre-season, if you will.
Yep.
So they'll over there for a couple of weeks, mate, and they'll play a trial, and it basically gives Canberra first refusal, if you will, to either say, look, thanks, boys, and give them the tools to go away and improve their game, or to say to them, look, boys, we'd love to sort of keep you on board for 2023. So that gives them that option. So that's mate, something. And, with the support of, the South Perth, I guess, public and committee with our sponsors supporter base, we've been able to sort of bring that to fruition, mate. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, cool. No, that's awesome. How did that all come about, mate? Like, was it someone like yourself getting in touch with the Canberra Raiders, or was it them getting in touch with you, knowing the club's history of premierships and all that sort of stuff, and they have got South Perth have had a few players going to the NRL. How did that come about?
Mate, just a couple of us down at the club. It's a conversation that sort of never gets old, really, with regard to junior development and how can we be stronger as clubs, a game as a whole over here.
Yeah.
As we know, anyone will tell you, mate, once we get to that sort of 15 to 7 age bracket, there's a huge sort of numbers at the moment.
Yep.
And it pretty much coming down to, sort of what we're promoting, what we're selling as a game, and what we can offer these kids sort of moving forward. And at the moment, it was, not much at all. We can offer you a game in first grade if you're up to it, sort of down the track. Some kids want more than that. Obviously, they'll go to rugby and see if they can pursue a career in rugby union. But as I've said all along, mate, I've got no doubt in my mind we're a far superior product.
Yeah.
As far as, if you want down and watch our product opposed to the other one on the TV, well, they're chalk and cheese in my opinion. But we're behind because we haven't got that for the next step or that progression in place for these kids, mate. So the only way really to do that was to go to the next step and sort of contact a few clubs. It was pretty important for us. Obviously, Perth's sort of, I'd call it small in the grand scheme of things when we start sending kids east. So it's pretty important to us that we didn't I wasn't overly fussed on sending kids into Sydney or Brisbane from WA that sort of had to, could possibly be their first time away from mum and dad, mate. I don't know.
Yeah.
And whatnot, but it was pretty important that we sort of found a club that, early doors, it was sort of your North Queensland, Castle, your Raiders, and Manly being sort of, I know they're a Sydney club, but the idea behind Manly was that traditionally they're not overly strong with their juniors. They tend to sort of shop around for them.
Yeah.
So ultimately, mate, it come down to Manly and Canberra, and with their in the Harold Matthews, they sort of see an opportunity there to sort of court more West Australian kids, and so they were none too happy to come on board with us.
That's awesome, mate. That's awesome. When you guys send them over, is someone from the club going with them, or is it just you send them over by themselves and the Canberra Raiders pick them up, sort of accommodation, all that sort of stuff out?
Yeah, mate. Look, we're very fortunate there as well. Obviously, a big consideration is sort of who they're with, how they're going to get to training, so on and so forth. Most clubs are very good. With this sort of program in place, mate, they would be going to like a family that does this year in, year out. There's families on the East Coast that end up with 5 or 6 kids. That's basically what they do. Mate, we're very fortunate with Sully James Sullivan now living over on the East Coast, down in the Canberra district. Mate, it just worked out perfect for us.
Yep.
he's actually got the two boys over there with him now that are at the Raiders from South Perth and Kalamunda, respectively.
Yeah, nice.
Things seem to be working, mate. So yeah, once we sort of weighed up the different clubs and the pros and the cons, mate, as well as that, we've got a Dean Suter, who's at the Raiders now, mate, has ties to South Perth.
Okay, cool.
Too. So Dean was pretty integral in, sort of making it happen, if you will, from their end. They're sort of fell into place, mate, and we couldn't be happier.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. That's absolutely brilliant, and it helps that you do have those people over there, but just to have that pathway for these young kids to, this is what I found in the last couple of years since COVID. There's no development, no pathway for the kids. We've had people like Kennedy Sherrington and her sister Ruben. They've had to move over to Sydney to go play because there's no pathways here.
Yeah, that's right.
Like yourself, like I said, being the co-president of the club, how do you think us as a code in WA and the NRL WA can get a pathway system going?
Yeah, look, mate, tough one. Obviously it's been tried numerous times. I think, and it's easy to point the finger, mate, and say we should be doing this, that, and the other. But ultimately, first things first, mate, we've got to find the funding.
Yeah.
And then I think, secondly, for that investment, what do those people want in return for the investment? So they're the things you've got to cross first. Like it's easy for me to sit here or yourself to say, look, we should be doing X, Y, and Z. But that's not to say that like cash builders, for example, weren't dictating how money was being spent, if you will.
Yeah.
So obviously with the SG Ball program, mate, it's the toughest under 18s competition in the world.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. That's what our boys who were not coming out of any real systems and or pathways, if you will, were walking into. And mate, they probably acquitted themselves quite well, considering,
Yeah.
Anyone that knows the game knows that these kids over there have been courted since they're 10, 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
They've been given certain programs. They're working on their speed, strength, all this sort of stuff 3-4 years prior to even playing the SG Ball. So, mate, it was always going to be tough. I think it just got to be stripped back, to be honest with you, answer your question, strip it all back and sort of, lay it all out and have a bit of a look at what we can and can't. First, I guess you need to look at, locally, how would we do it? Well, coaching's a big one.
Yep.
Be a lot more emphasis and time spent on our coaches.
Yep.
Again, we're all volunteers, and most of us haven't had the opportunity to sort of be in systems, if you will, and have that experience around us as sort of young coaches. Myself, very fortunate, mate. I've had a lot of sort of good people help me along the way.
Yep.
But we just don't have that as a whole here in WA. We've got people that, work really hard on sort of development, both on a player and coaching aspect, but it's to maintain that, over the course of the 12 months, 18 months, 2 years time, and in 2 or 3 years time, we've got coaches and support staff that can start to implement, these programs and younger kids ready. I think, mate, we have a 12s. I think in a perfect world, we have a 12 stateside. Is that right?
I think so, yeah. I can't remember off the top of my head, yeah.
And there's a gap, 13, 14, and 15s.
Yeah.
So really, we really need to be starting at that sort of 12-year age bracket.
Yeah.
And maintaining some sort of structure and or procedures moving forward into that, which, buddy, it's a long time, mate. How you do it, I'm not entirely sure. But leading into that 15s carnival, which I then hope you could probably look at something like a Harold Matthews or something along those lines. Even these days now, mate, the country championships like Laurie Daly and your Andrew Johns Cups are something like those an option for a 6 or 7 week, Finger Cups in Queensland, which are now split up into two conferences.
Yep.
You know, is the Cyril Connell maybe the Northern Conference? Is that when I say, I don't mean to sound sort of derogatory, but you want to start at the bottom and work our way up.
Yep.
You know,
absolutely. Yep.
So maybe we could pick off one of those Northern or Southern conferences in the Cyril Connell.
Yep.
Again, we've all got great ideas, but we need someone with the money in their pocket to sort of bring them to fruition, mate. So
yeah, absolutely.
We can
absolutely.
talk day or week if you would, but yeah, first things first. But like I said, I just like to see them strip it back there and start again, if you would.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said at the start of the chat, I'm trying to get the NRL to notice that Perth needs a team. We've got the interest, we've got talent, all that sort of stuff. I've talked to a few players, ex-players like Kerrod Walters. I talked to Michael Butner the other day.
Yep.
And a few other guys as well. And I put a suggestion to them, with Perth coming into the competition and the NRL sort of iffy about it. It didn't work before, all this sort of hoo-ha, which, I know it did work, but that's a different conversation. That maybe, we try getting to being with the North Sydney Bears and using them as our pathway into the New South Wales Cup, through their developments, all that sort of stuff. So our local clubs sort of, have a state tournament like they do at the moment with the Fusion and the Dolphins and all that sort of stuff. And then they sort of get picked to go over to the North Sydney Bears.
Yep.
And it sort of brings the North Sydney Bears back into the competition because they're not going to get in any other way at the moment. And it gives Perth a name out there. We're part of the Bears. They play to start off with. They play half and half home games, half at North Sydney Oval, half over here, and then slowly but surely move more games to Perth, but sort of keep one or two home games in North Sydney. Obviously that's just my opinion, but I think for me with the pathways, I think that would be a great way to get into it. Your club is very lucky in the sense of you've got that Canberra Raider pathway for the kids.
Yep.
But a lot of other clubs, like for example Serpentine, we don't have anything. We are a new club, but there's nothing for us to sort of get these kids to go, hey, well, we've got an association with this club, so here we go.
Yeah, no, it is, mate. It is difficult. I mean, look, as humans, it's one of our sort of lesser traits, if you would, that we sort of, I wouldn't say we demand success, but it's a lot easier to follow. Yeah, and with the game in WA, you're relying, or we're trying, if you will. Obviously, we've got a huge influx of expats, but we're trying to get people to like the game of rugby league. Like I say to people, we're the second most popular rugby code in an AFL dominated state.
Yeah.
So that gives you an indicator of where we're at, So that's how difficult it's going to be. But getting back to what I was just saying then, we really, how you do it, look, I don't know. I don't have the answer with me right at the minute, but you need to be successful straight away.
Yeah.
Right. And the only way you will sort of court that following, if you will, and get people to turn over is to bring success to the park straight away. And how you do that, look, I'm not sure. Yeah. Gain financially would be enormous, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But just for example, if you were to, we'll talk on a sort of a senior level, if you will. If you were to go back into your Ron Massey New South Wales Cup, I think you'd have to be buying and really looking to be successful straight away. At them to get that supporter base to grow.
Yeah.
If they see you successful on the field, they'll follow you.
Yeah.
If you're getting belted by 50 every week, well, mate, the diehards,
yeah,
they'll tick along and support you, but trying to get those people to turn from A to B and come over to rugby league will be near on impossible, mate, if you're not successful. So that'd be a hard one, but that's just my opinion. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But if you're not successful straight away, mate, it'll be, like it has been in the past. You're around for 2, 3, 4 years, be out the back. So that's where we're going to be diligent. If it was to happen again, and we're going to put a side on the park, we'd really have to be, aiming for instant success. And then how you sustain that? Well, that's the next bridge you got to cross.
Yeah, exactly.
So, there's no easy way to go about it, unfortunately, but we just sort of keep playing. And I wouldn't say, it's not about hoping for a miracle, but it's just about sort of remaining patient and I guess being ready, mate. If and when the opportunity arises, we need to be ready. We need to be able to capitalise on that, opportunity and not let it. So, and that again comes down to the local product being strong, mate. So that's what we've got to really, I go back to sort of stripping it all back there, mate. We've got to make sure we're good here. We gain sort of our competitions we've already got in place.
Yeah.
And if and when that time comes, mate, we need to make sure our local product can then sustain that side that's either a Ron Massey or a New South Wales Cup, just to use that as an example.
Yeah.
So first things first, mate, we've got to be doing the right thing by ourselves, at our own clubs and working really hard to sort of sustain, or shore up our future as junior clubs, if you will, for sort of years to come. And when the time comes, mate, we need to be ready to strike. No,
that's it, mate. And absolutely, mate. Couldn't agree more with everything you said, mate. Couldn't agree any more with you, mate. Just lastly, mate, what's coming up for the club in the next 2 weeks? I know the start of the season is coming up. Is there any events on the club in the next couple of weeks? What's the go?
Mate, not this time of year. It's just too busy and it's too much to ask for our volunteers. So we'll generally, obviously this time of year, we're 2 weeks out, mate. Now you'll really start to see the influx of your registrations, people coming in for their shorts and socks, etc.
Yep.
We'll look to, away from the footy, we'll look to shore up our canteen. Obviously, we'll have stock and that coming in for that. Making sure all our kits are all right, our jumpers are all in order. They'll all go out this week.
Yep.
And normally, mate, once sort of the dust is settled and we're a few weeks in, then we'll start to sit down and have a bit of a look at sort of what we've got coming up as far as fundraising. Mate, we always like to get our juniors out on the park on a senior day. So just things like that, mate. And of course, once we sort of, over the course of the next 2 to sort of 4 weeks, we'll get the video camera out and start having a look at a few of these kids that are sort of showing us that they've got a bit of potential, and we'll start to do some filming and, that'll obviously go over to the Raiders, mate, for their sort of 2 bobs worth, and there'll be a bit of twing and throwing there. So that'll keep sort of myself and maybe one other busy for the year.
Yeah, nice.
But nothing major, mate. Like I say, I'd come around sort of 3 or 4. We'll sit down and have a little look at what we want to do, with our fundraising and so forth for the year. Yeah, that's cool.
That's cool. Just lastly, how do people get in contact with the club, mate, if they want to get their kids involved or themselves as a senior? How do they get in contact with the club? Yeah,
look, mate, both juniors and seniors are pretty active on the social side of it. So our Facebook and Instagram pages, there's always traffic going through them. So our email is sprljuniors@gmail.com. Mate, we have our treasurer and registrar monitor that on a daily basis. If anyone needs to speak to myself, obviously they just email the club, just let us know sort of who they are and what they're looking for. And if the girls think as though, it's worth a phone call, mate, they'll pass my number on. And seniors the same, mate. We can take traffic from the seniors. The seniors are in a little bit of a changing of the guard, if you would, at the moment. So their website and stuff like that's just getting updated as we speak. So it could even be easier for people just to use that junior email for the time being. Forward that on, mate. So while those guys are just tidying a few things up there for the new year. So, mate, like I say, our social pages, email, they're the best ones to sort of go through at the moment.
Awesome, mate. Well, Joe, thank you for joining me on NRL Fans WA, mate. Really appreciate you giving me your time on this long weekend. And all the best for the club and all the juniors and seniors for the rest of the year, mate.
No dramas, mate, and also to the Serpentine Club, mate. We wish you all the best, and yeah, hope to see us up here soon.
Yeah, too easy, mate. Beautiful. Thank you very much, bud.
Thank you, mate.
See you, man.